From mysterious sea monsters to hidden messages, medieval maps tell fascinating stories of how our ancestors saw their world. Join us as we explore these remarkable documents that shaped exploration, trade, and our understanding of geography for centuries. You've probably heard the phrase "here be dragons" associated with ancient maps marking unknown territories. But here's something surprising. This exact phrase rarely appeared on medieval maps. The Latin phrase HCSVNT Dracones was found on only one known map, the Lennox globe from 1510. Instead, mapmakers used various symbols of mythical creatures, including dragons, sea serpents, and other fantastic beasts, to mark unexplored regions. These creatures weren't just decorative, they represented very real fears and uncertainties about unknown territories. Sailors shared tales of massive creatures in distant waters, and cartographers translated these stories into visual warnings on their maps. The modern phrase "here be dragons" became popular much later as a way to capture this fascinating aspect of medieval mapping. Let's explore one of the most remarkable medieval maps ever created, the Hereford Mappa Mundi. Made around 1300 AD and housed in Hereford Cathedral, England, this massive map is painted on a single piece of calfskin and stands over 5 feet tall. Unlike modern maps focused on accurate geography, the Mappa Mundi shows us how medieval people understood their world. Jerusalem sits at the center, with Asia at the top, Europe on the left, and Africa on the right. The map is filled with biblical scenes, exotic animals, and fascinating creatures from medieval folklore. You'll find everything from people with faces in their chests to a phoenix rising from flames. What makes this map truly special is how it combines geography with history, religion, and popular beliefs of the time. When medieval cartographers filled their maps with sea monsters and mythical beasts, they weren't just showing off their artistic skills. These creatures served important purposes. First, they acted as visual warnings to sailors, marking dangerous waters with strong currents or hidden reefs. The more fearsome the monster, the more treacherous the area. But these creatures also reflected real marine life that sailors encountered. What we now know as whales, giant squids, and walruses often inspired these fantastic illustrations. Some monsters were added to fill empty spaces on maps, making them more visually appealing to wealthy clients. After all, these maps were expensive art pieces as much as they were navigation tools. The practice became so common that by the 1500s, sea monsters were an expected feature of high-quality maps. While medieval maps might look strange to our modern eyes with their unusual creatures and distorted landmasses, they were remarkably accurate when it came to trade routes. Merchants and sailors relied heavily on these maps to navigate established trading paths across Europe, Asia, and Africa. The famous Catalan Atlas of 1375 showed incredibly precise details of trading posts and ports along the Silk Road and Mediterranean Sea. These maps included practical information like the distances between ports, safe harbors, and major market cities. They even marked dangerous shoals and reefs with impressive accuracy. What's fascinating is that many of these trade routes are still relevant today. Modern shipping lanes often follow the same paths that medieval merchants used centuries ago. The cartographers might have been unsure about distant lands, but they knew exactly where the money flowed. Let's dive into why Jerusalem took center stage on medieval maps, literally. This wasn't just a random choice, but reflected the deeply religious worldview of medieval Europe. Christian mapmakers placed Jerusalem at the exact center of their maps because they saw it as the spiritual heart of the world. The Bible itself refers to Jerusalem as being in the midst of the nations, and medieval scholars took this quite literally. They designed their maps with Jerusalem as the focal point, with continents arranged around it like petals of a flower. This design wasn't meant for navigation. It was a powerful statement about how medieval people understood their place in the world. Some maps even showed the crucifixion scene right in the center, emphasizing Jerusalem's religious significance. This tradition lasted for centuries and influenced how Europeans imagined world geography. Those beautiful decorations on medieval maps weren't just for show. They often contained hidden meanings and important messages. The compass roses, for example, did more than point north. They helped sailors calculate distances and identify wind patterns. Look closely at the borders of these maps, and you'll find detailed information about seasons, lunar cycles, and even astrological data. The colors used weren't random either. Blue wasn't just for water, it often indicated safe trading routes, while red might warn of dangerous territories. Even the seemingly decorative ships painted on maps could tell you about local naval power or popular trading vessels in that region. The elaborate banners and coats of arms weren't just fancy artwork, they marked territorial claims and political alliances that were crucial for merchants and diplomats. Let's meet some of the brave explorers who relied on medieval maps to venture into the unknown. Marco Polo's detailed descriptions of Asia actually helped improve the accuracy of many European maps. When Christopher Columbus set sail in 1492, he carried maps influenced by Polo's accounts, though his miscalculations about Earth's size led to an unexpected discovery. Portuguese explorer Vasco da Gama used and enhanced existing maps of African coastlines during his journey to India. These explorers didn't just use maps, they actively helped create better ones by documenting new routes, correcting errors, and adding details about lands they visited. Their contributions transformed rough sketches of unknown territories into increasingly accurate navigation tools. Each voyage added new layers of knowledge to medieval cartography. Now let's explore one of the most overlooked chapters in medieval cartography, the incredible contributions of Islamic scholars. While Europe was still drawing largely symbolic maps, Islamic cartographers were creating surprisingly accurate geographic documents. Scholars like al-Idrisi and al-Masudi combined mathematical precision with extensive travel accounts to produce maps that were centuries ahead of their time. They preserved and improved upon ancient Greek knowledge, developed sophisticated methods to calculate distances, and created the first accurate maps of the known world. Their work was so influential that European mapmakers often copied their techniques and discoveries. The Islamic world's extensive trade networks and astronomical observations helped create maps that would guide travelers from Spain to China. Medieval maps played a crucial role in shaping the age of exploration and colonial ventures. These early maps, despite their mix of fact and fantasy, gave European explorers the confidence to venture into unknown waters. Portuguese and Spanish sailors relied heavily on maps that showed theoretical trade routes to Asia, though these often underestimated the actual distances involved. The maps' depiction of wealthy foreign lands, filled with gold and spices, helped convince monarchs to fund expensive expeditions. Columbus himself used medieval calculations about Earth's size, combined with maps based on Marco Polo's travels, to argue for his western route to Asia. While these maps weren't always accurate, they provided the basic framework that inspired generations of explorers to push beyond known boundaries. Let's track how medieval maps transformed from artistic fantasies into more practical tools. In the early Middle Ages, maps were heavily influenced by religious beliefs and folklore, often showing a flat Earth with paradise somewhere in the east. But by the 1300s, things started to change. Sailors and merchants needed more accurate maps for navigation and trade. The introduction of the compass and better sailing techniques pushed cartographers to create more realistic maps. They began adding coordinate systems, scale bars, and detailed coastal outlines. By the late medieval period, maps like the Catalan Atlas combined practical navigation features with traditional decorative elements. This evolution shows us how medieval society gradually shifted from a purely religious worldview to one that valued practical, scientific observation. Thanks for joining us on this fascinating journey through medieval cartography. If you enjoyed uncovering these ancient mapping mysteries, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share it with fellow history enthusiasts. Let's explore the past together.